Okay, so great to have you here. I see Renee and, well, I said Nick, but I know there's a whole family behind there, and Kelly and Jessa, and probably some more watching um, the replay here. So thank you for joining me today. I'm in Bali. If you're not in Bali, I don't know what time of day it is for you that you're watching this or night, but it is my morning, and it is beautiful and sunny and warm. And it's starting to feel like summer today, even though we've had a lot of rain recently. But my son, who's 4 years old, he just finished his last week of preschool a couple weeks ago. And so we're on our summer break now. And I'm just preparing myself for the kindergartner that I have now, and just wanting to enjoy these few weeks that we have together before like this big milestone of he's entering kindergarten, and just kind of trying to treasure this time. And I think it's a special time for a lot of families when summer comes. There's a lot of excitement in the air about outdoor activities and the kid having more time with kids. And at the same time, I know it can be a little bit more stressful too, because just because kids are on break doesn't mean that our lives as parents gets to slow down necessarily the same way. And so we might feel ourselves more stretched for time and wanting to create more activities, and maybe there's vacations and trips planned, and then travel and the logistics of it all can be a little bit daunting. So I know it's with a joyful and a somewhat stressful time for a lot of parents. So I just want to acknowledge that. But that's why it's so much more important for us to be intentional about creating mindfulness practices that we can do for ourselves, of course, but really for the whole family, especially if you find that I don't really have a lot of time to myself, and I need to integrate things with my family, and instead of having an hour for my morning routine by myself. That might not be feasible for people. So I wanted to give you some practical tools, some things that I'm doing with my family, and some things that you might find helpful for you to do by yourself and with your children, and that can help everyone just have a more peaceful summer break. And hopefully, a summer break where there's more activities and bonding and less screens involved, because my family has been super aware of the conversations going on from researchers lately. And I read this book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. It's so good. You should definitely read it. But just really outlining how important it is that we try to keep our kids off screens as much as possible, and ourselves, and that is so much easier said than done. Trust me, I'm aware. But hopefully, this is going to give you some reminders and some just helpful inspiration to set you off on the right foot. So, I want to talk a little bit first about co-regulation, because I think the key to us having a calmer break is that we all are able to regulate ourselves. And that's both us and our children included. Because before we ask our kids to calm down, we have to check in, am I calm? Because our children are going to literally co-regulate through us. And that doesn't matter which age they are, but it's especially true for the younger ones, because they feel our stress before we even say a word. And if you're dysregulated as a parent, or you're rushed, or you're stressed, or you're feeling really tense, they're going to pick up on that, even if you say all the right words. It just is an energy that we push off, and that they share, and it dysregulates them, or it can propel them further into dysregulation. So we have to also take care of ourselves, fill our own cup, and be nourished and regulate ourselves, so that we can then be more successful in helping our kids be calm. So it's more important that we are not just telling them what to do, but we're doing things with them, because our kids have, immature nervous systems and brains, and they're going to borrow their regulation through the proximity that they have to us, the tone of voice that we use, the presence that we bring with them. And the science really backs that up too. It says that our nervous systems with our children sync up through what we have called mirror neurons in our brains. And we have something called the polyvagal system. I won't get too deep into the science, but it's essentially like the spectrum of fight or fly and freeze response, and our rest and digest response in our nervous system. And the mirror neurons in our brain are the cells that are responsible for empathy and for us to be able to imitate others. And so when we're calm, the brain's of our children, those mirror neurons reflect that calm without them even having to be intentional about it. It just happens naturally, like a mirror effect. And so when our children are feeling safe, um, our children are going to feel safe and grounded when we are tuned in and present with our own selves. Basically, that's to sum it up. So it's important that you find the mindfulness practices that are going to work best for you and for your kids, because I could sit here and talk about like 1,000 different techniques. But at the end of the day, there might just be a couple, like a small handful of them that are going to be both interesting and effective for you and your kids. And so it's really an exploration to try things out and to see what sticks and what you enjoy and what you can come back to and what really works for you, because what works for one person may not work for another. And that's the case with all of meditation and all of mindfulness. So we have to be flexible and just discover what works best to keep us present, and then embody that so we can become the presence that our kids can anchor to. So here's some of the tools I'm going to jump into, and I've been doing these off and on, and some of them work better for me and my family, and some of them might work better for you. But it all starts with connection, essentially. One of the most powerful tools that we have as human beings is our ability to breathe and to regulate our nervous systems through breath. And we can not only calm ourselves down, but we can release anger and frustration. And we can also move through grief. And we can also elicit joy and aliveness and so much more just through changing and shifting our breath. It's like one of the most amazing hacks to shift your state is to shift your breathing. So a few breathing techniques that are enjoyable and fun to do as a family that you can do with your kids. Some of them are, one of them is called hot cocoa breath. So pretending that you're holding like a warm cup of hot cocoa or tea or whatever that your drink of choice is. And then you inhale to smell it, and then you slowly blow out to cool it off. You can do it through the nose or the mouth. Of course, I find it's more helpful for most people to do nasal breathing than mouth breathing, especially on the inhale. But I find it's really nice to imagine and use that imagination to imagine you're smelling the hot cocoa and you're blowing it off to cool it off. And that's a fun one to do. You can just do it for a few rounds or a couple minutes, and let the imagination go wild. Another one that it can be fun is smell the flower, blow the candle. So you're smelling the flower and you're blowing the candle. And you could use actual flowers and candles if you wanted to, but you don't have to use those props. You can just imagine it, visualize it with your kids. So that's another variation. There's one that I love as well called flower breathing with using your hands. And this is one that I actually guide on the Balance app, if you ever wanted to listen to it be guided for you. But essentially, you're going to take one hand or both hands and just rest them on your lap or in front of you in a way that's relaxed. And you'll bring your hands into a fist at first. And then you just imagine that your hand is a flower and your fingers are the petals. And as you inhale, the flower opens, and as you exhale, the flower closes. And then you can go into some more visual with that and just continue inhaling and exhaling, imagining what color are my petals of my flower and what type of flower is it? Is it a sunflower or a tulip or a daffodil? And then just doing that for a couple moments, imagining this flower and where this flower might be, in a field somewhere, in a vase, can be really fun. And before you know it, a couple of minutes has gone by, and voila, you're feeling a lot more regulated and calm right there. In the moments when there's frustration or a lot of intensity, and I know my 4-year-old has a lot of intensity, and so do I. And so sometimes I need to do like a dragon breath or a lion's breath. And you can imagine like a fire breathing dragon taking a big inhale and then like letting all the fire out and letting all the steam out. This can be a super healthy way of and fun, and I've seen it shift the state of going from like really frustrated and tense and angered to actually adding a little bit of lightness and levity and maybe even playfulness. And that really can shift moods as well as release the heat and the frustration and the anger in a way that's healthy, right? Without harming ourselves or others or throwing something, which I know oftentimes can be the go-to for kids, maybe even adults. But this can be super helpful. Imagine you are a dragon or imagine you're a lion. You just go and let that tongue hang out and let the fire and let that roar come out. Um, so definitely want you to use that one. But just the whole point with breathing is make it playful. When you're with kids, it's so important. Like let them pick their favorite one and model it with them instead of just instructing them through it. Like actually do it with them. You'll feel it as well for you. Some other things that I think are really helpful as tools for us during the summer break is to find some grounding practices that we can do with our family. Such grounding means like feeling like you're not scattered everywhere and your mind's in a million places and you're in this chaotic, confused energy, but like I'm here, my feet are on the floor, I'm connected to the earth, I'm present in this moment, and this moment is everything's okay. And we can do that by putting our feet on the floor and imagining us standing tall like a tree with roots going down through our feet, rooting into the earth, like we're a tall, strong tree. And that can help us feel grounded. That's a great visualization technique. And then just grounding yourself into the present moment sensations. What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you see? So anything with the senses is super key for kids and for us as adults to just be here right now. There's a practice I love called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a sensory check-in. If your kid's capable of doing that, they can. It's 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, 3 things that you feel, and 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. Now, that might be a lot for some kids. Maybe teens and older kids can do that, and adults. So maybe you adapt it if you have smaller children. It might just be like, what are 3 things that you see and 2 things that you feel? And 1 thing that you smell. So you can narrow it down a little bit for younger kids, or even just being more specific, like what is something that you see um, outside, like a plant? What can you describe a couple plants that you see, or um, what what places on your body do you feel your clothing? Like getting even more specific can be helpful sometimes for kids. So this is a fun thing to do anytime really, but especially at meal times can be good because we want to be present with one another at those moments, and or during any meltdowns, like if there's really high waves of big emotions going through, that can be super important. Um, and then we have like something that we call pause and connect rituals, which are really, really helpful, especially if you need to reset with as a family. Any kind of repair needs to happen. Maybe there was a big meltdown or there was a moment of stress that flared up because, like, listen, we're all human. It's going to happen. A pause and connect ritual with our kids. You can place one hand on your own heart and one hand on your child's heart or their back, and then just take 3 slow breaths together. You can just be in silence if you like. And you just teach that to them as like a reset button before we respond or after we had a big response and we want to repair. Like it's really nice to get to the place of, can we do this before we get reactive with one another? Because it's such a way of returning back to love and returning back to calm so that we can all be kind to one another. And I think that's really helpful for us to show our kids that. And even just for ourselves as adults, like some of these practices that I teach in meditation is the physiological sigh, which is pretty simple. You just take 2 sharp in breaths through your nose like this, and then 1 loud sigh out the mouth. So two inhales, one big sigh. And you can do that 2 or 3 times, and it's super effective in regulating your nervous system and calming you down faster than many forms of meditation could in the same time frame. Something I've done for a long time, but I've recently learned has some real scientific backing behind it is something called horse lips breathing. Maybe you've ever been around a horse. I grew up with horses, and they always like, here's my best horse sound. So they do this sound and then they go, probably heard a horse do that before. But many animals actually do this when they survive some sort of stress. They like shake it off somehow. And so we can too literally shake some things off using our breath and horse lips. So we just take a deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, just blow it out of your lips like a horse. Just nice and loose. Let it vibrate, let it flutter. It looks silly, it's a little weird, but that's kind of fun. It's part of the magic. It brings some lightness to things, and you can do it like 2 to 3 times. And just let your jaw jiggle and your shoulders drop and your cheeks bounce, and that can be a really nice way to reset as well for ourselves and with our kids. But it sends a signal to our brain. It says there's no danger here in our nervous system, and that's kind of mirroring what mammals have as a neurogenic tremor, a survival type of stress release. And it's strangely calming. So next time you're feeling stressed around your family or your kids, take a break to do this, or even just do it in front of them. It might just create that little like wedge in the moment that is needed, and becomes something your kids do too. When I do calming breaths of any kind, like the ones I've just described, sometimes it's nice to narrate it out loud to your kids. Like, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, or I'm feeling a little stressed. Mama's a little upset right now, or I need to take 3 deep breaths, or I need to take 3 horse breaths, or 3 sighs before we talk. And then just narrate and do that. And they see, oh, okay, when she's doing this thing, it teaches me that I can also learn how to be that kind of person that regulates myself when I'm feeling stressed or when I notice those things. And chances are very high that they'll just automatically do it with you, even if you don't ask them to. Like I noticed that with my son when I go, I'm going to take a few deep breaths. Because sometimes telling him, let's take 3 deep breaths. He's like, 2. Then I go, okay, that's fine, but I need to do it because I'm stressed. And so mom is going to do it. And then I'll do it. And I notice that just watching me, the first breath, he might not do it, but the second and third, he will. And it always seems to work. And then after that, you could just put a hand on your heart and take a 30-second rest. Look out a window, exhale, walk around the room or leave the room for a minute. That's not self-indulgent. It's really self-care. And if you can reframe it that way, it's the best for everyone. Because our nervous systems are the atmosphere in which our children are growing up. And as we regulate ourselves, we shape the atmosphere into one that has safety and calm and resilience for them. So super, super important stuff. Not always easy to remember in the moment, but these little simple ones hopefully are going to make it easier for you. And if you can find a way to make a soothing space in your home for this, that's great. We're not always home when we need to do these practices, but oftentimes we are. And if you are home, you can always have like a little corner or a part of your house. Maybe it's in their room, maybe it's somewhere else. Is just a consistent, cozy, and predictable space that they can go to calm down and feel safe, like a safe zone, a recharge zone. Not like a timeout spot. We don't want to use it as a punishment spot. It's more like a reconnection spot, like a space to not be overstimulated by any kind of screens. Maybe there's some sensory soothing toys there or tools there, a soft mat, some pillows, a blanket. Maybe there's soft lighting or like a salt lamp, or just natural light is usually helpful. And maybe they have some comforting items that you can put there, or you can source, like fidget toys are really good for when there's extreme and intensity inside, or like calming jars with glitter, or just coloring sheets to get things out in a coloring way. Different textures are also helpful, like water beads, depending on the age of your child and if that's appropriate. That can be really soothing for people, especially if they're neurodivergent on that spectrum. That's really, really key is having those sensory things. Maybe even some audio meditations that they can listen to. My friend has 4 kids, and he told me that he loves having like a printed chart of feelings or the emotion wheel. He actually has like a big poster in his kids' room that has these different faces with facial expressions of like I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm angry, and it actually helps them start to build some emotional intelligence of understanding like what emotion am I feeling right now because they can look at it and point at it. And again, keeping a safe space that's not a punishment zone, but like a recharge zone, and always being a space that like they can feel invited into, not like forced into. Um, and so I think that's one way that we can create a safe and calming space for ourselves for the summer. But one of the things that I find so interesting is that as a meditation teacher, people often come to me asking, like, what's the best meditation for my kids for this age group? And I think many parents, we hope our children will learn to meditate in order to help them manage their emotions. But really, for the first 7 years of life, the most powerful practice is actually play. Play, play, play. Imaginative play, embodied play, outdoor risky play, sensory rich play. That's the essential foundation for our emotional regulation, truly, and for our ability to focus and for our ability to be more resilient later in life and less anxious. So please don't understate the importance of the activities, the play activities. Like that is actually more important for young children. I don't even really start introducing like more serious meditations until, kind of in that um, adolescent phase, and preteen phase, because most children it's not the most appropriate thing to just have them sit and be still and try to focus on something. It's much better that we are filling up their sensory bank for their nervous system. So when I mean sensory bank, think of it like your child has a sensory bank for their nervous system, and we need to make regular deposits. Um, the deposits are movement or nature or connection or play or just time, because time spent with them, I mean, because the bank is getting withdrawals all the time when they are introduced to bright lights, when they have screens, when there's stress in the home, or they're just feeling under stress, or maybe just hunger or being tired, because just time alone will be withdrawing from their sensory bank. And of course, any kind of rush transitions are also going to make withdrawals from that bank. And once that bank is depleted, that's when we get the meltdowns. That's when we get the hyperactivity. That's when we get the frustration or the withdrawal and all those behaviors that we try to say, oh, they must need meditation, or medication or something. But actually, like, children learn best through repetition and play. Super important for healthy brain development, and their ability to have the ability to handle complex social life and make decisions and regulate their emotions. So use simple mindfulness tools like the ones that I've shared and will share, but remember, play itself is medicine, especially for young kids. So if you have a toddler or toddlers at home under the age of 4, practice any of those breathing techniques that I mentioned, like the smell the flower, blow the candle, or the hot cocoa breath, or the flower breathing with the hands, lion's breath, dragon's breath. There's also like something called teddy bear belly breathing. You can lay on the ground and put your favorite stuffed animal on your belly and watch it rise and fall as you breathe, because that's actually having them breathe into their diaphragm, and that's really helpful for calming nervous system. But just going on nature walks, like a sensory walk, going out barefoot if you can on the grass, or walking around on some smooth stones or on the beach. Like, can you feel the grass and the stones under your feet? Can you hear the birds and the leaves in the wind? Anytime you can bring their attention to their senses in the moment is super good out in nature. I mentioned like the calm down jars. There's You can make them at home, or you can find like glitter jars or bubbles, and then just shake them when there's big emotions feeling, and watching that glitter helps to settle the mind and the body. It works for adults too, actually. Something that I do with my son a lot is called I call it cuddle tate instead of meditate. So you just snuggle each other, hold each other, you simply um, you can do it in bed, you can do it on a couch, or maybe, you're out in a grassy field on a picnic. You can place a hand on your heart and one on theirs and breathe together, or just kind of snuggle in a way that's comfortable for you. And then just feel um, present in that moment with them and with their breath, and syncing your breath with theirs, and just finding some gratitude for the love and connection that you share. That is a super powerful way to meditate with your child and integrate it with bonding time versus having to be alone. Um, Water play meditations are kind of fun. Like, you can just like slowly pour water or scoop water and splash with water at different temperatures, and just sort of narrate the sensations that you're feeling and that you're experiencing, and narrate the movements that you're making as you're playing with water. Super mesmerizing as well. Moving and dancing meditations are super fun and enjoyable, and a way to energize, but also like just manage energy too. If a kid's got a lot of energy, like, they don't need to go sit down and be ping-ponging that energy back and forth inside. Maybe they need to move and shake it out, or tap it out and tap their body and shake their body. Moving and dancing meditations, you can just play some fun music and free dance. You could even do the freeze dance, where you suddenly stop the music and everyone has to stop and notice if they can feel their heartbeat, or notice if they can hear their breathing. And then dance again, and then freeze again and notice some other sensation. These are fun ways of like of bringing presence and connection while you're also doing something healthy for your body. Storytelling is also super good, with young ones, like using colors and sensations in your stories, saying things like your heart is glowing like the sun, or creating some sort of fairy tale like Disneyland for them. And also visualizations with your child as the hero. Um, Make a wonderland for them in their minds. Like, this is the kind of meditation that is appropriate for small children, really not so much focusing ones, but things like this. And then visualizing your feelings can also be good, like noticing where you feel your feelings in your body. Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your face? Do you feel happiness here? Do you feel it here? Do you feel sadness here in your belly? If it had a color, what color is it? What texture is it? Is it fuzzy? Is it like hot or cold? And just noticing these little things can help build emotional intelligence and be a present practice too. I also think it's good to do like lots of sensory play and light touch for small ones, like massage and sponge baths, and just even like scratching their scalp or with lotion, playing with different textures, grass, sand, and water, with chalk or bubbles. Balance bikes are great. I've put together a whole list of activities that I think are super, super important for toddlers and grade school kids, elementary school kids, as well as preteens and teens, that I'm going to offer you for free as a little downloadable worksheet that you can come back to. So I'm not going to list every single one, but I'll say that sensory play and light touch activities, where they're like getting their hands dirty with something, whether it's paint or it's textures or it's materials, is super important for little kids. And then lots of movement practices, like bouncing on a yoga ball or swinging or climbing, digging for treasure in pillows, pushing around laundry baskets, jumping on a little mini trampoline, doing little animal walks and crawls in your body, playing in like creeks if it's safe, um, playing delivery games with big water jugs. That can be helpful for those kids. If you have elementary age kids, like maybe your kids are between the ages of 5 and 8, then some of the activities I think can be really helpful then is like gratitude circle at dinner. Have a sit down dinner where you eat together and you talk about what you're grateful for, with each other and about yourself and maybe just in your life.
doing some guided visualizations or listening to them, whether you want to guide them for your children, like they're floating on a cloud or they're in a magical forest or they're breathing with a tree, whatever it is. There's thousands of variations, and there's so many that are already pre-recorded by meditation teachers you could listen to together. That's really helpful for this age group. And breathing practices that they can feel in their body, like the ones I mentioned before, are also good for this age group. You can do things like emotional charades, or checking in with your feelings, similar to the young kids, giving them like a name and a color and a texture, and just reflecting on the emotions and the moods that we're in is good. Um, doing the meditations, I would say keep it to storytelling and keep it to visualizations for these kids, and definitely still add lots of movement and sound and music. If you want to keep your kids off screens more, get them outdoors, have them do a lemonade stand or a car wash or wash the family car or scooters together. You could do like capture the flag, wiffle balls, put a blanket out in your yard and look at the stars at night. You could do like spontaneous ice cream runs or picnics. Or teaching them a new chore that they can own for the summer. That's something that my son wants to do. He wants to have a goldfish. And I said, okay, you're going to do a chore. You're going to tidy up your room, and I give you a little coin, and and then you put it in your piggy bank. And once you build up enough coins, you can get a goldfish. And so, you know, it's important for kids to have those chores. It makes them feel important and valued as a part of the family, and it gives them the tools that they need to be more successful adults too. For this age group, I'd say like sensory play and light touch, same thing, finger painting, water beads, exploring food textures through baking or food prepping with you is really helpful. Pretending to paint on your skin and erasing it, that's nice. And you could do like same thing with movement practices, hippity hop, yoga balls, spinning in an office chair. Um, the floor is lava, stones on the floor. Um, Tug of war is really nice for this age group, and dance parties, creating an obstacle course, creating forts, climbing on playground structures, and like just kind of like jumping and crashing games onto soft piles of things. And a little bit of risky play is good and helpful for kids. So not supervising, but of course, like giving them the chance to have some risky play will also keep them from being anxious as they get older as well. So when you get to bigger kids, or maybe you have a tween or you have a preteen or a teenager, maybe they're 9 to 17 years old, the mindful activities shift a little bit, more towards things like journaling. Like, what do I need this week? Or what's something I'm proud of? Or what's a desire of my heart? Or what's something I could forgive and let go of? And then just giving some time to journal and to write. Uh, Things like box breathing are really helpful. At this age, they might not want to do the flower hands, but maybe inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for four, exhaling for four, and holding for four. That's box breathing. It's equal breaths. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold for an equal count. Um, that can be really helpful for kids, like especially before they go to sleep, or if they have a social event that they're nervous about, or presentation at school. Um, that's really helpful. Just going on silent hikes or nature walks, practicing yoga at this age, super, super helpful in helping the nervous system. And then really challenging your family or your teens to have tech-free time. Maybe it's an hour a day that there's no phones and there's no screens and no technology, or maybe it's one day a week that everybody's offline in the family, but you gotta do it too with them, or at least do your best to make screen-free time that the whole family can participate in, and to give them that understanding of like, wow, I can remember how to move through boredom and to play again and to enjoy the rest of my life without filtering it through a screen. Board games, board game nights. Some of the games I heard are really helpful. Good is like resistance, wavelength, code names. You could have like flashlight tag or scavenger hunts that you craft. Have a backyard bonfire with make some s'mores, go camping if you have that available to you. Maybe they take on a summer job. Maybe they mow lawns or they're a camp counselor or they're a lifeguard, or something else, cleaning. Um, you could do like a family cookout or just like a grill for their friends. Do a beach trip or like a summer reading challenge where they have to read certain books or they read the same book as their friends. Maybe you create a puzzle station where there's different puzzle pieces you can put together and everyone kind of works on it together. That can be a fun way to just dive in. And sports like joining a swim team or bowling or mini golfing or hiking. And then as much as possible, just creating outings for your family together. Um, when you're having like meal times, sharing what you're grateful for is also great for this age group. And you could do like a breathwork circle, or you could sit back to back with each other and then just match the rhythm of your breath. Even with your eyes closed is an alternative option to match the rhythm of your breath with your eyes closed. Go to the library. Do art projects. Listening to stories or podcasts instead of like watching everything is nice. My son's got this thing called a Yoto, and he's just listening to stuff and instead of watching stories. That's it's really fun because the kids' imagination can go into it, and then teens love it too. Yeah, so I think that's a lot of activities I just gave you. Hopefully, that's blasting you with some inspiration of things that you can do this summer. And I will make sure you check out if you're on my subscriber list. I'm going to email it out, a downloadable worksheet. Otherwise, you can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the description and link below. Hi, I'm Leah Santa Cruz. I'm a meditation teacher and a mom. And I want to share with you a practice that you can do as a parent with your child or your children to just bring a few more moments of calm and presence and groundedness in any moment, really. But especially if there's big emotions or you just want to create some time for enjoyable screen-free connection. So find a place where you can sit or stand or lie down that is comfortable for you. And imagine that you can do this as a group or with anyone that is around. And take a moment to ground, feeling your body connected to the surface beneath you. If you like, you can close your eyes or you can just have a low gaze. I like to close my eyes and imagine that my body is like a tree. And this tree has roots. Now they're invisible roots, and these roots move down from my body, down through the floorboards, down through the foundation of the building, down through the earth, deep down into the heart of the earth. And these roots are strong and holding me grounded here, connected to the earth, feeling very stable and supported and very strong. And now imagining that my head or the top of my body is connected to the sky. Perhaps there's a breeze, or you feel the temperature of the air. Perhaps you feel the warmth of the sun. Feeling the lightness of the sky and the grounded support of the earth at the same time. And now, I'd like you to imagine that you are inhaling and smelling a flower, and exhaling, blowing out a candle. Inhaling, smelling a flower, nice and fragrant. Exhaling, blowing out a candle. Perhaps you're making a wish. Inhaling, smelling your favorite flower. Exhaling, blowing out that candle. Do this 2 more times. Exhale, blowing out the candle. Inhale, smelling that beautiful flower. And now I'd like you to bring one hand onto your lap or in front of you in a way that feels relaxed. And closing your hand into a fist. Imagine that your hand is a flower and your fingers are the petals of this flower. So as you inhale, you're going to let your flower blossom open. And as you exhale, it's going to gently close, like falling back asleep. Inhale, the flower blossoms open. Exhale, closing. You can breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your nose or mouth. Doing this nice and slow as it feels good to, and imagine what kind of flower you have. Is it a sunflower or a rose or a tulip, a daffodil or something else? And what color or colors is your flower? Does your flower grow on a bush or in a tree or out in a field? Do this 2 more times. Appreciating your flower. And then relaxing your hand. Now I'd like you to think about someone or something in your life that brings you joy. Something that you can be thankful for today. And imagine sending this thing or a person that you love a thank you. You might even say it silently to yourself or out loud. Thank you. And now I'd like you to think of something about yourself that you are thankful for. What can you appreciate about you? Maybe you are talented in some way, or you are responsible or caring, or something else. And take a big breath in, sending yourself that thank you. Sending yourself, I love you. Now take one last big breath in. And if you're a parent watching or listening to this, just take this last moment to really tune into the kind of presence, the kind of being that you want to be as a grounding force, a present parent for your children, to be the presence that they need. Can you tune into that state of being right now? Maybe it's loving or patient. Maybe it's playful or compassionate.
Last breath in. Exhale, release. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice. And if you are interested in more activities that you can do with your children or child, there is a downloadable worksheet in the description below. And there's so many amazing mindfulness and sensory practices and screen-free activities that can keep you bonding and having a great time and feeling well. Take care. Thank you for joining me on that practice. And I hope that some of the practices that I've shared here with you today can be helpful for you with yourself and your children this summer break. And if you would like, please check out the worksheet that I put together. It's called Mindful and Screen-Free Summer, a Guide for Parents.